Hello, my name is Ronry as always, and I just wanted to talk about something that popped into my mind because I'm watching true crime. Um, Unfortunately, that's the only thing I've been able to pay attention to. I haven't been able to enjoy makeup content, and it makes me really sad. But uh, I've been watching true crime and thinking about um, my experiences with peace officers. Um, because that's what they are to me now, is peace officers. Um, Schizophrenia tends to have a symptom of a fear of authority, and there were previously a lot of people in my life who had a negative estimation of the police for either personal reasons or statistical reasons. And because of that, it fed into my fear of the police from my schizophrenia. Hi, Tiny Mouse. Um, and after my daughter got adopted, uh, I had to come to terms with the fact that um, I had placed her with a family that um, the father of her two siblings is a police officer, and the biological mother of her two siblings is a she's related to the police officers in the area, and the non-biological mother of the family is related to the fire crew and EMS, and I believe did EMS herself previously. Um, and I had, after I quit. What are you doing? What are you even doing? Um, Sorry. Um, uh, well, anyway, I had a drinking problem after I quit hard drugs. It was like peeling back layers of an onion, getting back to the core addiction that I started with in my youth, which is, I'm not sure if I can talk about it openly on YouTube, but the letters are SH. Um, anyway, when I was on the layer of alcohol, um, I was a binge drinker, and it took years of repeatedly quitting in order to successfully quit, which I think is a good metaphor for abusive relationships, because when you're in an abusive relationship, um, there's usually at least 7 attempts before you successfully escape, if you successfully escape with your life. Like, I was lucky enough to. Because after they put their hands on you, specifically, the statistic I read was if they put their hands around your neck. Is if you stay with them, 80% chance you do not make it. And if you leave them, there's a 70% chance that you do not make it. And I beat that 30% chance of survival. So I'm happy to be here today. And it took a while to come to terms with everything that I had gone through. Um, and after I had my son, my wife at the time convinced me to start drinking again. And we can discuss more about her motives after I get a lawyer and find out what I can and cannot discuss openly, for the time being. But I ended up binge drinking it again. And I wanted to quit. And I have a video of me, literally, I think it was 3 days before this incident that I'm about to tell you about. Um, Um, I went into delirium tremens, and in an effort, let me explain what that is, because that's a big sciencey word. Delirium tremens is it's basically a psychosis mixed with a seizure mixed with um, it's from quitting cold turkey if you're a binge drinker. And I was drinking upwards of 20 alcohol units a day, sometimes 20 in an hour. Um, and I wanted to quit, and I didn't go to the hospital for it. And instead, what happened is I ended up in the hospital in handcuffs. And the events that happened in between me trying to fix what was happening to my body by drinking more alcohol and the um, officers actually having to handcuff me. Um, the events between those are very foggy and fuzzy at best and absolutely missing at worst. My family has refused to tell me what I said. The only information I received about what I said is that I threatened to suicide by cop. And I said it in front of my entire support group in a group chat that I had initially made for sharing baby photos. And the mothers of my daughter saw it, and they saw me threatening to traumatize their loved ones, and they took away my privilege of being able to see my daughter in person. Um, the first time I got sober, I was very upset that at 6 months sober, I could not see my daughter. And I felt defeated and I relapsed. Initially, very lightly, which tricked me into this false sense of security, thinking I had, you know, rehab had cured my alcoholism and now I could drink. I could do it responsibly. And for a while, I did. And then I went through a trauma while I was drinking, and then I just didn't stop drinking for quite a while. Um, and now I'm coming up on 9 months sober, and boy, I wish, I wish we could put together the body cam footage of oh yeah, that's not just what I that's not the only thing I did while I was in delirium tremens. I didn't just threaten suicide by cop in the baby group chat. I also called 911, and I said that my husband, or sorry, my wife, I said that my wife, to them I said husband. I said my husband had a gun. She doesn't care if I call her a man or a woman. She's both. Um, she's straight in both directions, whereas I'm gay in both directions, and that's why we didn't work out. uh, she she did have a gun on her, but the events I was recalling to tell them on the phone either were fictitious at best, like I could have, like, for all I know, during my delirium tremens, which I don't have memory of, I could have intentionally misused police funds in a fit of psychosis, um, thinking that it was the only way out of desperation to achieve whatever goal I had in mind. I don't know what I hoped to achieve with that. Um, I have no memory of the phone call, but they basically they had like 6 police vehicles pull up to her place of work, and she walked out to get into her car and they swarmed her. And then when they caught up with her about me making threats to her place of work towards myself, saying I was going to kill myself over the phone, to her place of work, um, she explained to the officers that I was not behaving normally, and there was something wrong, and it had to do with the alcohol, and she wasn't quite sure what was going on. Um, I answered the door to the officers twice. Initially, earlier in the evening, I had cut my arms, called my wife's place of work, and told her I cut myself and to come home immediately. And that is not the way to go about it. If you want to activate people's empathy, don't try to manipulate them. It tends to put a bad taste in their mouth, from experience. Um, um, Again, I don't remember doing all this. This is just me piecing together what blips of memory is of other people. I was different people when I was drinking. Um, and when I stopped drinking, a lot of the people who were fronting when I was drinking no longer fronted. And they just don't exist in reality anymore. They only exist in my mind. And I took over the life of sobriety. Um, and I'm doing my best. But anyway, I, um, after I answered the door to the police and promised not to hurt myself any further, they left and I called my wife and her place of work and spammed them with calls saying, "How dare you call the police on me? You promised." As if promising never to falsely call the police on me means that she can't call 911 in a psychiatric emergency, which is not true. That is not the standard we had established for each other at all. There was this one-way promise that I wouldn't call the police on her, and I had her promise that she would call the police on me. I told her not to threaten to do it, just to do it. Never threaten. That's abusive. If you're going to call 911, you say, "Hey, honey, I'm worried about you. I think we need an ambulance. I'm going to call 911." You do not say, "If you don't behave right now, I'm going to call 911." That is toxic. You do not do that. And it made things worse for her to threaten to call 911 and threaten to put me in the loony bin and all that. And it touched on a lot of trauma I had from my past, from before her. And that's a bad combo. The officers came to my house again at like 4:30 in the morning. I woke up with absolutely no memory yet. Absolutely no memory yet. The last thing I remembered was going to buy alcohol with a friend because my wife wasn't home to take me to get the alcohol. For those of you wondering where the baby is in this equation, I didn't have custody of him anymore. I had signed up for a temporary arrangement, and I was using that temporary arrangement to make an earnest attempt at getting my mental health in order, as well as progressing towards sobriety as best I could. I did it wrong. I should have stayed in the hospital. And instead I checked myself out, made the child safety plan arrangement where my mother um, my mother and my wife and my wife's mother could take care of the baby instead of me. Um, and while I was on that safety plan, I went to rehab because I had my delirium tremens and the officers woke me up. They figured out which window was the bedroom window, and they shone their flashlights through, and they knocked, and they're like, Miss So and So, Miss So and So, um, we need to talk to you. It's okay. You're not in trouble. Um, and I go out there to the front door, and I'm like, can I just go back to bed? And they're like, no, honey, you're gonna have to sleep at the hospital. We need to take you. Um, and I'm like, why? And they say, do you remember what happened last night? And I said, no. And they said, have you looked in a mirror? And I said, no, my house doesn't have mirrors. And they said, ma'am, your face is covered in blood. You inflicted harm on yourself to the point where you cannot cover it in public. You need to go to the hospital. My kitten ran away, so meet Mr. Softy. The perfume is not the freshest on you, Mr. Softy. Um, what was I talking? Yeah, delirium tremens. I went to the hospital and I dried up. Oh, wait, no. I skipped a part. Let me back up. In the, in the. Sorry, my stutter started doing its thing and I needed to take a deep breath. In the police car, um, they, out of curiosity, breathalyzed me because they asked me, so how much did you have to drink last night? And I was like, I don't know. Um, I don't remember what I said after I don't know, but it was probably like 14, something that was a conservative estimate compared to my collective memory, over 30 drinks in the span of a few hours. uh, Drinks being alcohol units, not like 30 tall boys, but like 30 alcohol units. No, I wouldn't put it past myself to have drank 30 tall boys. Wiped out several different um, gas stations and just hoarded a bunch in this last ditch attempt to figure out what to do next. I don't know what the plan was. Um, it probably wasn't anything smart. But uh, I drank so much that at 4:30 in the morning, at least 2 hours after I had stopped drinking, um, they took me into the car. That probably took 15 minutes to gather my stuff. They were very polite. They made sure that I was aware that they were grabbing my phone for me, and they helped me get my shoes and all this. And I seem very sleepy, but I don't seem to be under the influence anymore. And they breathalyzed me just out of curiosity, thinking I'm sober again. And the number does not stop going up, and it hits twice the limit, and it did not stop. And I, partially out of being nervous and partially impressed at what my body was capable of, I laughed at the number continuing to go up after it had already hit twice the legal limit to drive. Um, I went to the hospital. They handcuffed me to the bed to make sure I didn't run out of there. into the woods, like I was kind of known to do. Um, uh, oh, particularly at this hospital where one time I went to them and I was like, I want to check into the psych ward. And they're like, okay, we'll be right back. We just got to test you for COVID real quick. And before they could finish the COVID test results, I had been out of there. I walked out freely because I was a voluntary case. Anyway, I've been going to this hospital for since I was 14, and I'm 28 now, so 14 years. Um, uh, I was handcuffed to a police bed. No, not a police bed. I was handcuffed to a hospital bed, and they kind of, because I was such a low priority, they ignored me. Um, I think I hit the call bell once or something. I might have yelled for them because I couldn't reach the call bell for all I know. I was not really conscious for most of the hospital first 24 hours. I I asked them for something to drink. I'm sure they brought me, water and ice chips, maybe a ginger ale. Maybe they offered me a sandwich that I didn't eat. And I went through alcohol withdrawal handcuffed to a hospital bed. And every 5 to 10 minutes, I would moan in pain at the hot and cold chills. And I forget if I even asked them for a blanket, because I think they had already given me one blanket, and I could not make up my mind between the hot and then the cold, and then the hot and then the cold, and then the hot and then the cold, and it hurt. It hurt. Um, when it was cold, it was so cold it would hurt, and when it was hot, it was so hot that I would start sweating and have to rip the blanket off. Um, Still handcuffed one arm to the hospital bed. And my buddy from high school, who I had classes with, not just ate lunch with and passed by in the hallway, but somebody who I spent an entire school year in class with. Um, he was the assigned officer to babysit me in the hospital. And I was, again, covered in blood. And because it was such superficial injuries, they didn't feel like stitching me up because it was unnecessary and would cause more scarring than it would fix. Um, and he has to see, one of the chicks from high school covered in blood because she hurt herself. Because remember, people perceive me as a woman. Um, I need to send him a selfie because I when I told him this, I meant to make him feel better, but I heard a sigh out of like concern that I knew this information. But when I told him, don't worry, my face isn't going to scar, he figured out that I had already done this before. And I'm so pretty, why would I want to hurt my face? It's because I'm pretty. He is probably traumatized for the rest of his life. Um, and I want to write him a letter, let him know I'm okay. This month I'm coming up on 9 months sober. Um, I'm closer to 9 months sober than I am to 8 months sober. Um, from alcohol, not including also being 3 years and 8-ish months clean from hard drugs. Um, I I'm I'm making it. I'm doing it. This is actually happening. Hello, little kitten, you're back. Um and uh I'm making leaps and bounds. I know a lot of the time I feel like I'm stagnating, but sometimes the wall you hit in your life is there for you to rest on because you've been working too hard for a while. Um, I wish I could get the body cam footage. Like, if I reach out to them and give them permission, maybe they'll post it themselves. I don't know. They could submit it to somewhere, and you. Ooh, I could raise charity money with my body cam footage. You know, the footage of me from body cams. I particularly want to get the footage from Texas, and I want to transcribe it. And then do a video breaking down how schizophrenic I used to be. During my acute phase. I'm in the residual phase now. I'm in the clear. I'm past the hard part. I got it over quickly. I went through it at 22. I'm 28 now. Usually a female would go through it at 28, but I, like a typical male, had to go through it at 22. But mind you, I was already hallucinating by age 5. So we had warning. Um, we had lots of warning. I've been in therapy since I was 3 years old. I am one expensive baby to have had. Um, I was talking to Google Gemini about it, and um, it would, on average, cost $500,000 to keep me alive from age 3 to 18. $500,000 spent in mental health care, if you include everything that insurance was covering. Um, if you don't include everything insurance was covering, then it could be up to $250,000. And to know that what it costs to keep me alive could buy you not just one house, but more than one house, or even just one house and a big parcel of land, or a house in a nice location, even. Ooh, not to say that my location is not nice, but it's definitely a poverty location. Um, I enjoy the poverty, but it has its downsides. Um, what are you doing? What are you up to? She's like, give me attention. I am giving you attention. Um, I want to find. I'm probably going to have to find the videos. Sorry, I just burped. The videos of me in Texas from the police body cams to. I I would be impressed if they put in the time to write down every word that I said nonstop in that police car because of my schizophrenic break. Um, like a schizophrenic spiel, a rant that never comes to a full point. All the sentences are unfinished. Some of the sentences do not syntactically make sense. And I'm making up words and telling you about really dark, traumatic stuff in the process. And then I stop. I sob. I ask him, the officer, I ask him, please don't rape me. And he scoffs, like, I'm not going to. And then I go back to ranting. So now he's not empathetic anymore because I'm back to ranting at him about how police are evil. Uh, when they're not. He's literally saving me. Uh, um, yeah, I would love to have that video for evidence in the police report against this guy that I've already made one report about, but now I have to Basically, what the officer told me is I have to contact each department that he hurt me at, like each county in which I was abused by this one person. I have to go to each county's department and ask them individually to investigate each incident that happened in that particular county. And I will have to make all of these phone calls myself. Um, but I'm willing to do it. Um, because it's not just about justice for me, it's also about justice for the unborn child who was inside me, who is now 4 and very healthy. Um, and also there are 5 other victims that I want to get justice for that are unrelated to the guy who was abusing the fuck out of me. A different guy abused a little bit of the fuck out of me for a week when I lived with him for a week. And in that week of us knowing each other, he trauma bonded with me so strongly that he confessed to me over a game of chess that he was teaching me how to play chess. He confessed to me 5 different crimes, and I need to track down that particular department and let them know the locations. Um, I hope I haven't said too much. Now that I think about it, he could be alive still. Anyway, um, I'm sure I'll be fine. I have the police on my side. Uh, Peanut, what are you doing? You silly puppy. You silly doggy. You silly doggy. What are you doing? Um, he's burying himself under my blanket is what he's doing. I think that brings our video to a conclusion. I'm sure I had more points to make that I'm forgetting. But, alcohol is a drug. Say no to drugs. Um, there are very scant few benefits if you are lucky enough to be able to drink responsibly. And the Surgeon General does not think that there is any safe amount of alcohol to consume. There is just safer than average, which is 1 to 2 units per day for men. No, 2 to 4 for men and 1 to 2 for women. And binge drinking is defined as drinking more than 4 alcoholic units per hour. So if you drink an entire Four Loko in an hour flat or less, you are binge drinking. If you go down that road where you're drinking Four Lokos within an hour or less and not getting sick, the road you end up on is drinking. For me, I would have to, in order to maintain, this was before I had children, don't worry. In order to maintain, I had to drink 1.5 liters of vodka in a day minimum to not go into withdrawal at all, and to brown out, not fully black out yet, but to just barely black out a little tiny bit here and there, I had to drink 3 liters of vodka in a day. Which I would do, because browning out treated the symptoms I was having. I'm not suggesting you do it. It's a terrible idea. They have medicine in the hospital that will treat you much better than alcohol. I'm at risk for liver cancer. I am at risk for spontaneous pancreatitis. I think is what one doctor said. It makes me think of like an organ just exploding, but it's not that spontaneous. Um, but basically, my body could just suddenly start deteriorating, even if I never drink again. Um, I hope that doesn't happen. Please, God, don't let that happen to me. I mean, uh, I just. It wasn't the first drink. It was the trauma for sure. But I wish I hadn't been drinking so young to predispose me to going through trauma, because I was hanging out with people who would supply alcohol to someone who legally couldn't buy it themselves. Those kinds of people are not usually the best people on earth. Um, and this wasn't like someone who had just turned 21 helping someone who was 20 buy alcohol. This was a 27-year-old helping an 18 just turned 19-year-old buy alcohol. Um, and you may have a differing opinion about that, but I see it as predatory. Um, who is willing to break the law that severely in order to get you drunk? That's not someone doing you a favor, that's someone making you owe them. Hi, Tiny Mouse. You're just amazed at me continually talking at the phone for 36 minutes. Um, I wonder how long that police car ride where I didn't stop talking nonstop. Mind you, there were multiple ones of those rides, within months of each other. Um, they they took me to, I think, the same hospital every time. Yeah, yeah. Because the staff that had to. Sorry, I should not be smiling. The staff that had to, like, strip me down and booty juice me because I wasn't behaving. Well, they didn't have to strip me down because I wasn't behaving. They had to strip me down. And then on top of that, they had to sedate me with a shot in my buttocks, which is called booty juice. Uh, the booty juice makes you fall asleep. And if you're asleep, you can't fight them or yourself, which I was fighting myself. I was using objects like the only objects they had accessible at one point, because they were used to my behavior. Um, After so many admittances to the hospital, um, anyway, they had removed everything except the scale they had to weigh me with. And when I found out I couldn't have my headscarf on while I was in the psych ward, which they had previously told me I could if I had worn it in, um, that made me go ballistic. And I grabbed the scale they were going to measure me with, and I started beating my own head with it. And then they got the booty juice. Um, I wonder how long those police car rides were, because it felt like an hour. But I was talking nonstop the entire time, so probably an hour was like 30 minutes. You know? You ever think about time dilation? I don't think you know what time is. Did you know that time is space? Did you know that time is space? And you are made of stardust? You are made. You are made of stardust. You are made of stardust too. Um. Would you be willing to gamble your entire life going how I described in this video if it meant you could have fun at a party? Because that's all I initially would risk, is I would have fun at a party and it led to, down the road, me drinking liters of vodka a day. And when I did decide to quit drinking, I put myself into such a medical episode that multiple police cars were involved. Alcohol is not worth it. And the more that Gen Z and millennials even speak out about how bad alcohol really is, the more we will find that people will choose to recover. Um, to me, sobriety is scary. And then I started actually being sober, and it wasn't so scary after all. I'm sure parts of it are as scary as I was imagining back then, but you get through the scared part and then it's over, at least for a little while, if not for a long while, before you have to go to the next scary appointment, or make the next scary police report, in my particular case. Well, actually, I've got both. I have family therapy still because we rescheduled today. Um, I have it later this week. I wish I had never started drinking if it meant I could avoid all the things that I've went through because of alcohol. Um, I can't say weed isn't a gateway drug because I did start with weed and then I moved on to alcohol and then I moved on to heroin and meth and crack cocaine. Um, Crack cocaine, the whippets of stimulants. Lasts 15 minutes and then it's like, okay, that was it. Anyway, um, alcohol. Out of all of them, if I could take it off the fucking planet, except for, medical reasons, like your well, I was going to say like your NyQuil, but turns out NyQuil is trash for you. Um, and don't take PainQuil. Oh my god, that's a recipe for liver failure. Um, Putting acetaminophen in with alcohol in a liquid form. Don't you know like 40% of Americans don't measure their liquid medicine as they should? And they should. You really should measure your liquid medicine. Um, and if you are going to drink responsibly. There's no situation you need to be in that would cause you to drink. If it's so bad that you can't stand to the situation without drinking, just don't go. Just don't go to that situation. And if it's something like you have to go to court, just remember that getting drunk is going to make it worse, not better. And I didn't think that after quitting hard drugs, I didn't think my addiction would get so bad without going back to the drugs. I didn't think my addiction would get so bad that I would lose not only my marriage, and by proxy of losing the marriage, I lost custody of my son permanently. I also lost the privilege of seeing my daughter who had gotten adopted. And to me, it feels like both those things happened in the swiftness of that one night where I had delirium tremens and the cops had to take me to the hospital at 4:30 in the morning. But I woke up the next day in the psych ward and I said, I need to make a phone call and let my family know that I'm going to rehab. And I did. I went to rehab. It was expensive. It was worth it. I wish the quality I received was standard and not rare. I went to a really, really nice rehab, residential rehab. The intensive outpatient part, someone died. Um, that's a story for a different day. This has been Ronry as always, and I love you. Whatever you're going through, I hope it gets better. And if you're not going through anything right now, well, you lucky bird, you. uh, Enjoy it while it lasts. I love you. Bye.